You know what? I think I'm gonna. Oh, sit in.
Daniel and I were talking about microfiche yesterday, so that's really aging ourselves.
Microfiche and romper room. And like when presentations are still like slides, like I remember I was at the time and it was carousel. Yeah.
You know what? It'll come back. You know, little records did.
Oh, there's Daniel. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, Brian.
You know what? I think we'll get started if that's okay with everyone. Oh, amazing. So I just want to say good morning to some, good afternoon to others. Welcome. Bonjour tout le monde. Bienvenue. Bonjour, Ani, Guinowea. Welcome to our FishCAST annual general meeting. All of you. And it's so nice of you to have, some of you to have your screens on too, if you feel comfortable doing so. So thank you for that. My name is Christina Semenuk. Please call me Tina. I am the director of FishCAST, which is again an NSERC funded training program for training inclusive partnerships. I am addressing you all from Wawaitanang, where the river bends. It's also known as Windsor. It is It's on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations and the Potawatomi peoples. I mentioned before that we're trying to train in inclusive partnerships. We recognize the importance and value of reciprocal relationships, and these relationships are between Indigenous peoples, local knowledge holders, place, and of course our water. The journey that our trainees are going on, and ourselves as well, it's not linear, but it's circular. It is integrative and integrative of multiple ways of knowing, multiple ways of learning, multiple ways of unlearning and relearning yet again. I think our
audio is cutting.
Oh, our audio is cutting. Okay. Can't hear me anymore?
We have a mic booster.
Okay, we've got a mic booster happening, but let me know. Check the noise.
It might just be the Wi-Fi spaced.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that better?
Is this working okay? Am I still cutting out? Because I can switch. Oh, thanks, Joe. Can I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down in terms of thumbs up, Alfred? Thank you. Thanks so much, everyone. Sorry about that. But I just wanted to say that our goal working together is to try to have a more decolonial approach to our work. And we really wish to grow capacity in our ability to address systemic barriers in all of our fields and to work collaboratively to overcome this. These are our shared values. This is our shared history, and these are our shared futures together as treaty land inhabitants. So thank you, merci, and miigwech. Was that better? Oh,
yes, we got it.
Yeah. Okay, good. I will continue now because it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you today our speaker, Dr. April Croxton. Dr. Croxton is a program analyst with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, located in Silver Spring, Maryland. During her 20 years with NOAA, April served as a research fisheries biologist, a program coordinator for the NOAA Restore Act Science Program, as well as the aquaculture lead for the National Sea Grant Program Office. While Dr. Croxton is no longer actively conducting research, she's now actually communicating NOAA science to Capitol Hill. So that's a win. In terms of Dr. Croxton's academic career, she holds a BS in biology from Virginia Union University in Richmond and a PhD in environmental sciences from Florida A&M University. And Dr. Croxton's research interests include shellfish, and specifically shellfish immunology and physiology, and more so improving the flow of communication between researchers and decision makers. Throughout Dr. Croxton's illustrious career, she has received numerous awards and recognitions, and these include being acknowledged as a U.S. Science and Engineering Nifty 50 ×2. I really like the title of that award, which means she won it twice, as well as a Richmond Public Schools Living Legacies honoree. Dr. Croxton is an incredible role model. She mentors middle school students from underrepresented communities to inspire the next generation of science professionals. And her overall goal when asked about mentorship is to be able to expose students to non-traditional jobs in the aquatic sciences. Most recently, April served as the president of the American Fishery Society, but she's always been heavily involved within the society. So for example, she's worked on creating a diversity and inclusion toolkit. She's contributed to diversity and inclusion articles in the Fisheries magazine. I particularly enjoyed her 2021 article, which was titled How to Be an Ally to Women in Fishery Science, and her more recent commentary on the importance of mentoring and networking for mid-career professionals. So that one really made me think. So thank you for that. As the president of Equal Opportunity Section, Dr. Croxton also represented AFS on the management board of the Diversity Joint Venture, which is an initiative to increase representation of women and racialized groups in conservation careers. We're absolutely delighted to have Dr. Croxton here with us today. And when once asked what Dr. Croxton would say to a woman starting out in her career, April replied, "Be fearless. You can do whatever you put your mind to." And we're about to witness exactly this. So can you please join me in welcoming Dr. Croxton as our keynote speaker for this year's AGM.
Thank you all so much. Oh my goodness. I'm like, this is so overwhelming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll talk about this a little bit more throughout my presentation, but just hearing those, things about my career, that summary of my career, it still amazes me because I don't think of myself like that. I'm just doing what I love. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation, but thank you, thank you, thank you. I really want to thank the FishCAST team for inviting me to be your keynote speaker for the annual general meeting for today, for 2023 AGM. And so my goal for my talk today is to share with you my career path and the lessons that I've learned along the way. I am by no means a career coach. So I hope that, by sharing with you what I've learned along the way, that you will find some useful tips to help you as you embark on your journey in the sciences. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm working with two screens, so forgive me if I'm going to be moving back and forth and looking, but we're all in the virtual world, so we understand that. Okay, so my title is Navigating a Career in the Sciences and what 20 years in the field has taught me. So I've broken my presentation into what I like to characterize as the stages of my career. So we'll begin with the early years. So I'm one of those people that knew what they wanted to do when they grew up at a very early age. So I knew ever since the 4th grade that I wanted to be a marine biologist. I am from Virginia, a coastal state. Didn't really see dolphins that much, just on television, but it was something about dolphins that really interested me. It wasn't that they were cute. It wasn't that. It was more of looking at some of those National Geographic episodes that I would watch on Saturday mornings and just hearing how contaminants would impact marine mammals. So I was very interested in how contaminants could introduce or impact those animals, those marine mammals. So they're marine mammals, they're mammals. Those contaminants could also impact me as a human. So what were we doing on land and, thinking about our decisions and how we were impacting that community? So I didn't know what it was termed at that time, but anthropogenic effects. That was something that really interested me in contaminants. Wow, how exciting. I didn't know it at that time, but that's what drew me in. So my mom really saw this interest and she helped to foster the interest. She had lots of conversations with my counselors in elementary school, middle school, and high school to really, work with them to try to help me advance that interest. So, she really asked, are there programs that would help to foster this interest? And so that meant that I participated in quite a few Saturday morning programs, math and science programs, summer programs, on various ranges of science and math topics, because she wanted to make sure that she was fueling that interest. And so, as you can see on this slide, math and science programs, biology clubs, always wanted to be in the biology club, because who doesn't like to dissect animals? At that time, yes, it may seem kind of geeky, but that was me. So I mentioned those counselors, and just getting the support of counselors. Counselors and advisors are so important, and you'll get that theme throughout my presentation. But in high school, remind you, I said I knew what I wanted to be in the 4th grade. So I knew in high school, when it was my senior year, when I'm looking at programs, I'm looking for marine biology programs. And so I was sharing this information with my high school counselor, and she said, let's put the brakes on that a little bit. Let's talk this through. And she said, you know what, by you focusing so narrowly on marine biology, you may be missing out on other opportunities. You're just starting. So let's think about a foundational degree or a foundational subject that you can, study as you go into your undergraduate years. And so I ended up majoring in biology, something foundational. Now, that did not mean that I was going to forego my love of marine biology. I was thinking about that for graduate school. And so, as we advance the slides, I entered Virginia Union into a biology program. And again, like I said, never gave up on my marine biology love. It was just, okay, well, let's get a more foundational base with this biology degree. And so, EPA was the organization that I wanted to work on, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. That was my career job. That's where I was going to end up once I completed my graduate years. So during my undergraduate years, I still took advantage of opportunities, because I wanted to confirm that the environmental sciences or the marine sciences or, something with water. For me, understand that freshwater is a big topic here. I was more interested in marine systems. And so I took not a detail, but an internship with the Whale Medical School, the Cornell Whale Medical School. And that was my confirmation to say, yeah, that's not for me. I don't want to go into the research medical field. I want to be outside. I want to be in the water. I want to get dirty. That's what I want to do. So that's another tip. Definitely it's okay to have opportunities that you don't like, because that helps you confirm your areas that you really want to go forward and study. So that was one tip that I learned at a very early age. So I also was awarded the Undergraduate Environmental Protection Agency Fellowship. Mind you, this is where I want to work when I grow up. So this was like the best thing that could happen to a junior in undergraduate. And so I had a summer internship, and it was an internship at a location in New Jersey, at an EPA location at New Jersey. And that internship entailed flying on helicopters the entire summer, sampling beaches for public health regions. So basically, we were collecting samples at beaches to make sure that they were healthy and safe for beach goers. So a lot of lab work, but also, it was on those helicopters. So that was super cool. That was awesome. My first time in a helicopter, lots of fun, lots of hard work, because we were hovering, but you had to bring those, drop those cameras. That was the container that we used, had to drop it down and then pick it back up with lots and lots of water in it. So I built up some some physical strength as well, but also gained some scientific skills, laboratory skills that would help my future. So, that was really, really interesting. I really, ended that particular internship, and I knew what I was doing. I was going to work at EPA. I was going to enter my graduate program as a marine scientist. That marine sciences is the program that I was going to enter. And I was going to Rutgers University. So I did my internship at in New Jersey, and Rutgers is a university in New Jersey. And most of the employees at that EPA lab, that was the pathway. You go to Rutgers, get a job at that particular facility, that laboratory. So that was my path. I was all set. That's where I was going. Well, this is the part of my story where things change. And when I look back on this particular period of my career and my life, this is the point where a decision was made that changed my whole trajectory. So we're going to get into this. So as I mentioned before, when I was that senior in undergraduate at Virginia Union, I was going to Rutgers. So by May 2001, I'm dating myself. We talked about aging ourselves. I'm dating myself. So I graduated undergrad in May of 2001. And at graduation, I was going to Rutgers and I was going to enter an MS, a master's program for marine sciences. No. 2 months later, I was going and enrolled at Florida A&M for an environmental sciences program, getting my PhD. Totally different than my original plans. And this was a decision, I honestly don't remember applying to Florida A&M. I know that I did because I went to a conference in my senior year, my undergraduate year, and met some folks from the school, and they were like, come on, you should apply. I applied. It wasn't on my list because remember, I'm going to Rutgers. I have my plan set forth, so I know what I'm going to do. I received a call actually from the department and was like, we'd really like to have you join us. We have a PhD program. Mind you, at Rutgers, I was just getting my MS. But at Florida A&M, I entered a PhD program. This was super scary because I didn't have that background. I'm entering a program where I don't have a master's. So I'm going straight into the PhD program. So I have to be on it. So the pressure was there. The pressure was also there because this would be my very first time leaving home. Family is very important to me. So I was leaving Virginia and going all the way to Florida. Well, I knew no one. At least in New Jersey, I had built up a community there, so I knew people in that area. But that wasn't the case in Florida. So I took a leap of faith. And that was definitely the changing point in my trajectory, my career trajectory. And so this opportunity and this decision came with a lot of hidden opportunities. On face value, yes, I was, had already decided I was going to a particular school, changed my decision, went to another school, didn't know anyone down there. What's the value of this? At that time, I wasn't even thinking about that. I can't believe now I look back on it, I'm like, I can't believe I made such a monumental decision so easily. So just talking about some of the opportunities out of, that came out of or was a result of that decision. At that time, I had never heard of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, and that's my current agency. I'd never heard of this group. I only knew about EPA. EPA was the only environmental group that I knew of. And so what I later found out was that my university, Florida A&M University, had a strong collaboration and partnership with NOAA. And so there was a graduate studies or graduate sciences fellowship program, and I was actually awarded a fellowship. With that fellowship, you were paired with a NOAA lab that was doing similar work that you were doing. So I was working with oysters, another big difference. I wasn't working with dolphins, I was working with oysters. And so, with that fellowship, I was paired with a lab in Connecticut that was an aquaculture lab, and oysters were the main focus. And so, that was a great experience because it was outside of my comfort zone. I was moving to Connecticut. I'm still a graduate student, but because I had finished my coursework, had passed my comps, and so then I moved to Connecticut and was full time in that lab. Again, moving away somewhere totally different, had no previous experience in the area, didn't know anyone in that area, but I took a leap of faith. And so again, so you're getting some of the themes, and you'll see some of the themes. I'm a little bit more adventurous than what I think. So I ended up completing that fellowship, completing my degree, and I actually was offered a job with that fellowship. It came with a job, so I actually had a job in my graduate years before I had actually received my degree. I was working at the NOAA lab. And so this was a new journey after graduation. I was working in the field, I was working in the laboratory, I was going on ships for cruises, and just awesome. International traveling, working with our international colleagues, and it was awesome. It was really, really awesome. So as we move along throughout my year, I did do some research, even though I'm not doing it now. I did do a couple of, many years of research. I was a research fishery biologist for over 10 years, for about 14 years. And so my research was bivalve immunology. And I was really interested in how contaminants, my dissertation work was on contaminants and how they impacted the immune system of oysters specifically. And so I like to tell people I was a shellfish doctor. So I literally extracted blood and measured the immune system of oysters. And so this continued on after graduation, and I started focusing on other shellfish. And instead of contaminants, because remember, I've always loved to work on contaminants, but contaminants at that time was not a focus of my particular lab. And so I was looking at environmental factors. So ocean acidification, food availability, temperature, other water parameters, how they impacted commercial and ecological relevant species in the Northeast. So these were some of my babies that I worked on. I felt very passionate about my shellfish, and that's what I did for many, many years. So this is the part of my career where I call it the uncomfortable stages, because I loved what I was doing. I was in the field, in the lab. That's what I've always wanted to do. But I developed a sense of restlessness. I could extract blood from my species with my eyes closed. So I wasn't being challenged anymore. I was kind of getting bored. I still loved the work, loved the science, but I needed something that was going to really drive me to the next step. And so that's the next stage of my career. And I'm sharing this visual representation of kind of the thought process of my career. So we start off with, in grade school, wanted to be a marine biologist. In undergraduate school, I want to be a marine biologist and I want to work for EPA. And then as we're progressing through my educational years, I want to be a researcher. I know I want to be a researcher. I don't want to go into academia, none of that. I want to be a researcher. In my earlier career, it was, and this is where I was at that point with being restless. I wanted to know how decisions were being made that impacted me as a bench scientist. So who were making those decisions and how are they making those decisions? And so that's where, like I said, that restlessness was starting to come into play. And by the time I left the lab, which was, like I said, about 14 years into my career, I had definitely determined that I was very interested in serving as a liaison, like a facilitator between the subject matter experts and decision makers, because I had the opportunity to take a couple of details, which you can call those professional internships. And I was able to gain some skills in policy. I was able to run a research competition. So learning those types of skills, gaining that leadership. I had the research foundation. I also saw how the decision-making process was going. I definitely saw how the two were not talking, or if they were talking past each other. So I wanted to be that person, that translator, to break it down and make sure that both sides were hearing and understanding what the other side was saying, and expressing the needs of the other side. And so here I reach another fork in the road. I love my science. I've always wanted to be a scientist. What do? I'm bored in the lab now. I see this effort, where scientists or someone with a science foundation needs to be able to help decision makers understand, and vice versa. So did I want to leave the research field and go to DC, which in the States is very much federal government and very policy driven? Did I want to do this? And this was a very hard decision. This decision was much harder than deciding which graduate school to go to, because as I mentioned, I've always wanted to be a scientist. So would I give up getting my hands in the meat of the work to become someone that is only tangentially associated with the research, but is working fundamentally with the people that are making the decisions that impact the research? So again, it took many, many months, lots of tears. I'll be very transparent because I love the science, and it was a hard decision to make. But I decided for me that this is where I needed to be. And so I did a policy detail, and then I did a detail with our congressional team. And that's where I am now. I am actually in one of the line offices within NOAA, and I help to facilitate information from our subject matter experts, from our labs and programs to the Hill, as well as taking direction from the Hill and sharing it with our labs and programs. So it's a lot of fun. I do miss the science, but I will say I feel like I am a more well-rounded scientist because I have that research foundation. I can talk the science with people, but as a researcher, I can't say that I had the policy knowledge, that I understood how decision makers made their decisions. I didn't understand budgets. I didn't understand how it was all connected. And so by making that other leap of faith, I was actually able to gain something that I don't think I would have gained if I would have stayed in the laboratory. So I call this period now that I'm in the future. So I'm in this state where I am comfortable being uncomfortable. I am looking for those opportunities that are stretch opportunities that make me want to shy away, but I know it's going to be so great for, building my skills and helping me apply it to another topical areas. So that's where I am now. I love what I do. Not sure if I'll stay here forever. It is a very fast-paced environment working with the Hill, as folks can imagine. But it's so rewarding to see the research that our scientists are doing being shown and demonstrated to the leaders and decision makers, and just seeing their faces like, wow, this is really great. This is helping my community, my constituents. So it's rewarding. Also, I may not have papers, scientific papers, but some of my phrases are in pieces of legislation. So that's super cool. You see, I get a little excited about it, but it's super cool. All right. So like I said, I am in this future stage where it's open. I have no boundaries at this point, no guiding boundaries. I'm taking it opportunities as they come and learning and looking for the value in those opportunities. One of those opportunities is the American Fisheries Society. So as you heard in my bio, I am the immediate past president now, but I was the president last year. For those of you not familiar with AFS, we are the oldest fisheries professional society. We have been around for 153 years. So imagine that. Someone that looks like me probably would not have been able to be a part of that particular organization. So I'm very proud to have been able to represent it and to continue representing AFS. It's been a great opportunity. I've made so many connections with various people, and I really like the work and the support that we give to the fisheries profession. So I'm going to wrap up and start talking about some of the lessons that I've learned, and I call this the career maturity. This is what I feel that I have gained over these past 2 decades. So I've developed some guiding principles. Looking back over my years, I've developed these guiding principles. So identifying values, being open, remaining flexible, detours, or are they opportunities? Developing my network, paying it forward, and speaking up. So these are things that I have failed at or had successes with. So I want to share those with you all. Identifying your values. Family is very important to me. So family, the most important thing. So I make my decisions based on familial relationships and decisions and how it's going to impact my family. For those of you that have families, whether you have children or you have parents, this can be a very hard decision. My parents are aging, of course. My grandmother is 98 years old. I have a very long commute, 3.5 hours one way, because I live with my mother and grandmother. My mother is the caretaker for my 98-year-old grandmother. She's still up and about, can do, she's doing well, but she's aging. She's 98 years old. I choose to live far away from my job so that I can help my mother with my grandmother so that my mother is not overwhelmed. So decisions like that, these are things that you all will have to wrestle with. Is this something that you want to do? Does it mean something to you? Folks with children, if you're in the sandwich generation, that work-life balance, it's so important. It's very, very important. So these are things that you should be thinking about. Is that a value for you? Maintaining your familiar responsibilities or managing it with your academic or your professional responsibilities. Wellness, making sure that you are taking time for yourself. Yes, we love what we're doing, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are healthy and that we are able, mentally healthy, to be able to continue the work that we're doing. Yes, our work sometimes can be stressful, but we have to take that moment and just breathe. So get outside. Make sure you get outside. Stay busy. Find a hobby. Those things are very important. DEI is very important to me. As a person that is a part of a traditionally underrepresented group, DEI is very important to me. Diversity matters. Different perspectives that are equally valued matters. Inclusion matters. Those things matter. Having those diverse perspectives really make us stronger. So really incorporating that in your style, whether you're a mentor, whether you're a mentee, making sure that you understand that. And that's something that with AFS, we received a lot of emails during the George Floyd event. It was, we are a professional society. Why are we talking about things that are going on in the environment? Because our members are also people. They are impacted by current events. So if you want them to bring their whole selves to this, then you have to understand that things that are taking place externally can impact them as a person, which then can impact their work. So I really wanted to share that, not to get on a soapbox, but I think that's very important for all of us as mentors, mentees as well. One other thing is making sure that we are incorporating our elders and folks that have come before us, not excluding that information and that knowledge that they have. My grandfather didn't go, I don't think he finished elementary school. He went to help the family on a farm. So, but when it was time for me to do my graduate research, because he lived in a agricultural and a fisheries area, he was familiar with fisheries. So he was actually able to help me as I was preparing for my field studies. He was helping me learn how to shuck oysters. So that knowledge, where he doesn't have a PhD, he didn't have a high school diploma, but he had that knowledge. He had the knowledge of the water resources as well as other environmental factors. So don't discount those types of knowledges. So again, that's values. Those are my values. Remaining flexible. Making sure that you understand it's okay to change your mind. It's okay. Sometimes you can say, I want to do XYZ 1 month and say, no, actually, I think I'd prefer to do this. This gets my juices flowing and my mental capacity it's exploding. And I gave you that example also with my marine biology versus environmental sciences switch. Differences in generation, that remaining flexible. I am on a team where there's a range of generations on my team. How I grew up in my career was kind of keep your head down, do what you're supposed to do. The leader who has this wisdom, they are the leader. And as a new person, I'm not supposed to come up and speak over them or, insert my ideas. There's a way to do it. So thinking about that. So even I have to look at myself and say, wow, I'm very inspired by our younger generation and how they're able to speak up. So being open for those of us that are in the older generation that came up in a different form or a different way, be open to that. So just wanted to share that because that's something I'm dealing with now, but I think it's pretty cool. Opportunities, I've kind of shown this, talked about this quite a lot. Look at those hidden opportunities and detours. You may still end up where you want to be, but look at the value of those opportunities as they are, shared with you or presented to you. Developing your network is super important. For me, AFS has just exploded my network. I was one of those quiet professional society members that would just go to the meetings. I would present, talk to the folks that I knew, but I didn't get active. So for those students that are in a professional society, make sure that you become active. Get on a committee, get on a board, volunteer. That's what it's about. These are volunteer organizations. That builds your network, but also your soft skills. So definitely take advantage of that. Any other activity, whether you volunteer at your university or your agency, wherever you are, volunteer to be on committees. That's how you meet people. I've heard so many examples of people sharing how they've gotten jobs because they just talked to someone in the hallway and it was just a common occurrence. And then some information has changed and, oh, that person, I remember having that conversation in the hallway. Let me see if they're interested in applying to this position. These are things that are actively taking place and things that you all could put in your toolkit to get you prepared for the next level. Networking style. I am kind of an introvert. I thought I was an extrovert, but I do much better in one-on-one conversations. It's so difficult for me to go into networking events. I try to find that person that I know and kind of talk to them, but it's so important to walk around and take that first step. It can be hard. Happy hours. Oh, I cringe at happy hours, but do it. It can be useful, but also be comfortable enough to say, I need some time. I need to recharge. So that is something that I've learned along the way. I will go to events for maybe 30, 45 minutes. And I know that's it. That's all that I can socially handle. I need to go back to my room and charge, because if I've been in a conference all day long, I can't do it. I need to relax and just, kind of chill out a little bit. So that's something that I've learned along the way. And now I feel comfortable with making that stance. So you have to develop that type of confidence as well. And let's see, I'm almost finished. Paying it forward, mentorship. This is very, very, very important. And you can be a mentor at any stage of your career. And it's something that you definitely should do. You have no idea how many people look up to you and you don't even know it. For AFS, when I've been going to our meetings and the different events across the regions, people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you inspire me so much because I think I'm the youngest AFS president too, besides the other stuff." But I think I think that's the case. But I don't even think that, like I wouldn't think anybody would look at me as an inspiration. I'm just sharing what I've learned along the way. But you are an inspiration to people, to the younger generation, even though you may be in, your graduate school years or what have you, or early career. It's okay. You still inspire someone after you, someone coming after you. For our mentors, be open. That's for you too. Be open with your experiences. Be open in sharing opportunities, because after all, it's about passing the baton to the next generation. Our jobs as mentors is to help prepare the next generation. So we really need to prepare them, give them opportunities. We kind of see, some mentors that stay on for years and years and years, and those are opportunities that the younger generation could really use and take advantage of. So think about that. Let's see. Also understand that people want to be their authentic selves. So that is something, that authentic self could be something that you may not agree with, but that is that person's authentic self. So be open to that. And, again, that diversity and inclusion matters there. And don't paint your mentees' experiences or your mentees with a broad brush. Everyone brings something different and unique to the place. So that is something to definitely remember. And then finally, speak up. I was very, very humble, very quiet. I was under the impression that you did what you were supposed to do and things would happen. That's not the case. Sometimes and not sometimes, all of the time, you need to advocate for yourself. And I'm not saying being a super obnoxious braggart. I'm not saying that. There's a line to it. Advocate for yourself. If there are opportunities that you're interested in, speak to someone about that. I'm really interested in this. I'd like to gain more understanding or gain some skills here. This is your career. Don't be passive. That is one of the failures that I have learned over the past. This is your career. Be active in it. And so with that, I will stop. But again, it's all about the science. And so I'm and the other mentors, we're passing the baton on to you all as you are in your program and moving forward. So with that, thank you very much. And it's been great being with you all. I'm going to stay on as long as I can, but thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, April. That was amazing. I'd love to be able to open the floor and answer questions, but before we do, I just wanted a huge thank you to you, Dr. Croxton, for talking to us so openly and with vulnerability and with such great insight and help, and that authentic self definitely came through. So that's something that we try to always instill in ourselves, but it's so nice to hear and to validate that. So a huge gratitude towards you. So thank you. All right, do we have any questions for Dr. Croxton? You put in the chat. Oh, we've got one from Kristen. Kristen, go ahead.
Now can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for the talk. I think, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of people can really relate to this thing where you go in being like, yeah, I want to study dolphins or sharks or something, and then we're all on this completely different path. So it's really nice to be able to hear someone talk about that. I wanted to ask you about how you talked about being this well-rounded scientist. For somebody who's not as interested in going into policy, but still wants to have that kind of well-rounded knowledge. Do you know, or could you give advice on another way that someone who wants to maintain that researcher career, but still kind of understand the policy in some way, like how you could do that?
Yes, now I have to be honest with you. I would strongly recommend that you at least get some policy skills because that's going to be important. Budget, something that no one told me in my graduate school years, understanding the budget process and how it impacts the research that you're doing. Those are other ways. So are you looking at more leadership? Is that something that you would be interested in, like maybe at a smaller, maybe I'll use agency because that's what I'm more familiar with. So like a smaller regional group and being like a leader there. Is that of interest to you?
I mean, I would really like to, I'd like to stay in academia, because that to me, you get to do a lot of mentorship there as well. But if there's, as you know, if there's like an opportunity somewhere else that I think fits those kinds of goals, like I'm not opposed to going into some smaller organization.
Yes. Okay. Well, in academia, I'm not as familiar. I'm just thinking about some of my colleagues that are in academia. And I'm saying this because I'm more familiar with it, but some of our Sea Grant programs and some of the leadership positions that they have there. So it's still connected with the university. So you still have that university piece there, but then you also have some of that policy where it's a little directional. So that's one example where you have the tie of both academia as well as a little bit of policy there. I'm not sure where you are, if you are in Canada or you're on our side.
I'm in Canada.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with any programs like that, but I would there has to be some type of program where you can still work with a university. And also think about crafting. I didn't talk about that, but there are possibilities for you to craft your own path forward. So think about that. Is there finding that niche that is that gap? And so if that is something that you have, yes, it may seem like out there, but it's possible.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really interesting.
And I can see Kristen doing that, no problem, forging her own path. So, do we have any other questions, comments? April, we had from Sylvia saying, thank you for the amazing talk, very inspiring. And Kelly McNichols O'Rourke, she was one of our FishCAST seminars just last week. She said, I love the energy and the topic. Thank you. And good, we've got from Emily, I believe. Yes, go ahead, Emily, whenever you're ready.
Hi, can you see me? I'll move around. Okay, cool. Yeah, really cool talk. It was very interesting to hear about some of the other pathways that aren't just directly academia. So that was kind of cool to listen to. You mentioned about how you moved around a lot. So you went to Florida and then Connecticut. What was that experience like for you? And do you have any tips for, like, I don't know where I'm going to end up. That's the problem. So, but I'm really scared. So.
No, I totally understand. And I was the same way. I went to undergraduate school. Like I said, family is very important to me. So I wasn't one of those undergraduates that wanted to get away from, high schoolers that wanted to get away from home. I love my family. We have a great relationship. So I didn't mind staying in Virginia for undergraduate years, but I also understood that I would need to move away if I wanted to follow my career. And Florida, I knew was probably one of those places. And so for that internship, that summer internship with EPA, my best friend. I was going to say my BFF, but my best friend at that time, we both had the fellowship together. She had a family member that was in New Jersey. And so we actually stayed with that family member. You know, it was very, both of our families were, you know, family oriented. So that worked really well because they were great. My mom met them, my dad met them. It was perfect. And it was a nurturing environment. That's what I was looking for. And so when it was time for me to decide on Rutgers, I already had that network there. However, Florida was a totally different experience because I knew no one there. And I was going to, I'm not quite sure if you know this, but the area that I was going to was not necessarily a very open place. Tallahassee can be very in the past and in how, you know, and how they think and whatnot. So that was scary too. You know, even though I'm from Virginia, the Confederate capital of you know, the states, but still going to Florida was a totally scary event. So thinking about things like that, but I met people there and it was like a family. The graduate school was very small, so it was definitely a small environment, very family oriented. I still talk to the people there. Some of the advisors, some of the staff, they're like family to me. So I developed those connections. Connecticut was a totally different experience. But again, I have truly been blessed to have people, to meet people that have wonderful spirits and have been nurturing and have taken me in as a stranger. And so that's what I'd like, definitely pay that forward, you know, taking in people, you know, of course, within reason, of course, but you know, being open to people because you never know.
Yeah.
But you can do it. You have to go outside of your comfort zone, but as long as that there was a plane, a train, a highway, I could always get back home.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
I really appreciate the question too, Emily. Thank you. We have comments from Alfred, who says that he identifies with the uncomfortable moments and shifts and thanks you for your excellent articulation. Great. And
thank you. And these things, I do want to let you all know, this is 20 years in development. And when I started, I was that meek little person that I didn't speak up. So this is not something that you are expected to feel and be immediately, unless that's your personality. It wasn't mine. So this is something, what you're seeing is 20 years, 20 plus years in the making. So I do want to make sure I add that disclaimer.
Oh, go ahead. Someone unmute? Oh, that Craig says he's very pumped after this talk and thanks you so much for sharing. And I do want to just say, like, typically when we hear about someone's journey through science, it's all about, this is where I did, this is how I did my internship, this is where I did my bachelor's, my master's here, and then I postdoced here, and then I made this discovery, and then it's like graphs and results, and talks about how we're torn, how we need to stay true to ourselves. Like, no one talks about that journey. What we did, well, actually Kelly talked about that in our seminar series a couple weeks ago, but we want to open up that conversation more and more, because like you said, we're people, and we're having to deal with this, and yet we feel like we're only allowed to speak on a very scientific academic level and not like actually peek behind the curtain, where I think that is just so much more important, because you're seeing questions from our trainees saying, what were you feeling? How did you do this? What's your advice to be able to handle all of this? So I really, really appreciate us opening up about that and talking about that more and more, April. So thank you. Do we have any other questions for Dr. Croxton? You could put in the chat, you could ask it. And I'm sure we're going to be reflecting on this as the afternoon progresses, as we go into the weekend, as we start going forward next week and beyond. And so can you all join me again in thanking Dr. Croxton for an amazing talk, and we really, really appreciate everything. Thank you so much. This is great. And you inspire us as well, April. So how about we take maybe a 5-minute break and we'll reconvene at 1 o'clock.
All right, we're back.
Thanks, everybody. I'm just going to start off by giving the AGM kind of update. to everyone. Hopefully it's not going to take more than 10 minutes. And so I'm going to have either Kendra or Kat cut me off if I'm going too long, but I will make these slides available for whoever would like to have a copy of them. Absolutely no problem. So we'll get started. And I thought that what is a better way to start coming off the tail end of April Croxton's talk than to just reset, reground us. In terms of, we all know what FishCAST is. It's a training program funded by NSERC. We're very grateful for that. But what really is FishCAST? And I wanted to revisit our logo because when it came time to designing the logo, when I met with the designer, we had very specific things in mind and what we wanted the logo to represent. So for example, you'll notice that this fish is kind of upward turning, and that really encapsulates and captures the symbol for hope for the future, despite everything that the freshwater fisheries and fishes are experiencing. You can see the circle. Everything's captured in the circle, and that's meant to represent inclusivity, but you'll see that the circle is incomplete. That means that it symbolizes the work that still needs to be done, that we're working towards. And lastly, with the exception of the eye, all the lines in the logo are interconnected. This represents our collaborative partnerships, but more so, it's the connection that we have, and it all leads back to water, which is our life-supporting system. This is us going forward. And so then let's start. Kendra and I were working our fishtails off earlier this year to try to bring together all the different reportings that that NSERC requires for the interim progress report, because we're held to the standards that we set forth in the application that we all collectively put together. We had dividends, we had to make sure that we were doing our due diligence, and that we actually had students that were participating in what we said that we were going to present. So we had great feedback from our PIs, we had great feedback from our program committee, and we submitted our interim progress report in February, and I'm pleased to announce that they really liked the FishCAST program. Our funding is secured for the next 2 years, and I'm highlighting these are the exact strengths. You can have a copy of it as well. I'm not embellishing anything. They said we had a successful delivery of our professional technical skills. The students were actually taking it, so that's a note to our PIs how important it is for our trainees to sign up, because that's one of the things they're looking at. We're exceeding our HQP targets that we had set out in our application, which is amazing. They love that our internship with our partners, we're very dedicated to providing impactful mobility experiences. That's through our internship partnerships. They really liked, they said it was commendable, our EDI, or as April says, DEI efforts. They said they were far-reaching, diverse, and strategic. And they really like the fact that we have this commitment to receiving continuous feedback from our trainees and from others to make sure that the program that we're offering grows with the students and with the needs as well. So yay, everyone, yay, FishCAST. Okay, so now we're getting into the weeds. April mentions the budget, and it's important to know where the budget comes from and how it's being doled out. So in year 4, you'll see that NSERC requires that most of the money that they give us, around 75%, has to go towards our trainees in terms of stipends and salaries. So we're meeting that deadline and that limit for year 4. You'll see that captured both in the dark blue student stipends and the orange, which is our Indigenous student scholarship that we have. The program coordinator amount is always fixed from year to year, as are the travel expenses that are meant for our trainees to travel to their internship places. And then we've got a little bit of unused funds. This is for year 4. So we got a little bit of carryover, but that's okay because we can still bring on students in January 2024 and summer 2024. I'm trying to get a nod from Kendra over here as I'm looking at her. Perfect. So, but we also have carryover commitments into year 5, right? As our students are still in our program. And you'll see here again, we still have some most unused funds. That's okay. That's 2024, 2025. What I want you to get from this slide is that everything's running just fine. We're a little bit underspent, but that's because we're still bringing students on. We're definitely not overspent, but we have a small remaining budget, which is a good thing. NSERC doesn't like it when we have a lot of unspent cash. I told you in our last AGM that we were successful when we applied for a grant. So this is Dr. February, Kat, Kendra, and I. We applied to the University of Windsor Diversity, Indigeneity, and Anti-Racism Professional Development Fund in 2022. Our title of our grant was called Casting a Wide Net, quantifying the impact of decolonized networking practices in FishCAST. So again, this is our way of ensuring that, yes, our trainees are amazing. They're going to get the technical skills that they need. They're going to get the research experience that they need. But remember our values. Remember our FishCAST logo. And we've got all these wonderful things put in place, but is it actually working, or is there follow through? Is our commitment genuine? We have the amazing support of Dr. Amy Fitzgerald, who's she's a FishCAST collaborator. She's also a professor in the Department of Sociology and Criminology. And she is taking the lead on this project hand in hand with Acacia Frempong-Manso. She is almost about to get her PhD in sociology and social justice. And together, we're almost there. The survey for our students is complete. The Research Ethics Board just has a couple of comments, but it's ready to distribute. And what the survey is it's an exit survey to our FishCAST trainees that have been through the program and have finished with it. We want to get more of an idea of what their experience was in terms of their EDI journey. And the rollout is almost ready to go. So we're very, very excited about that. In terms of our remediate committee, so this is our recruitment, mobility, and EDI committee. So this is just how many students we currently have. So currently we have around 33 or 34 students currently enrolled in our program. We've got a mix of, take a look at cohort 3 and cohort 4, a mix of master's students and PhD students. We've had 49 students already through in or through the program, which again, that's exceeding what we'd ever thought of having. And it's down to, I think, our PIs being amazing, recruiting students. And what's, I think, really great is that we've had students graduate in FishCAST that have continued on in FishCAST with their next degree. We've had students that have started in FishCAST in, let's say, a master's, enrolled into a PhD, all within FishCAST. So we're not losing them, we're actually retaining them, and we're so happy about that. When we take a look at what our students are hoping to get out of their career choice, we've got the majority of our students are interested in policy and applied research. We have a smaller proportion that are interested in pure research, and again, those that are interested in industry and community, but that's still quite a strong foothold. So this points to us where we should be focusing our partnerships, our curriculum in terms of our micro-credentials to make sure that we're supporting the trainees and their needs. When it comes to their research interests, we're divided up into 4 different research themes. So the majority of them are research theme 3, which is fish health and fitness, is where most of the research falls. Again, these are not mutually exclusive categories. Some of them cross the different boundaries, which is wonderful. So we have a lot of trainees that are involved in ecosystem and habitat assessments, and an equal proportion that are in fish culture and fisheries ecology and exploitation. So again, it's highlighting for us what are the importance that don't just reflect the PI needs, but because students are also self-identifying as crossing these boundaries, it's coming from them. In terms of our operations committee, so this is all about our internships. FishCAST is so happy to welcome brand new internship partners for 2023. And you can see it crosses over from city partners, city representatives, to First Nations representatives, to environmental consultants partners. We've got conservation authority partners within Ontario. We have consortium groups in terms of the Hamilton Harbour Remedial Action Plan. And we've got government coming on board. So we've got the Manitoba Natural Resources and Northern Development. So, and it's amazing, and it's crossing Manitoba, Quebec, and Ontario, where our partners and our PIs are. Again, this goes to show how people are just so incredibly collaborative, and what our partners and our PIs are bringing into FishCAST is absolutely beautifully diverse. And so thank you for believing in FishCAST and wanting to have these partners join us. In terms of the curriculum committee, we already started off with a big hit with Kelly McNichols O'Rourke, who opened for us back in October 3rd. We've got next week Dr. Katie Stamler, and so hopefully you've registered for that. And we've got Craig Patterson, who's actually here today. I saw him already. So he's going to be giving a talk in November, as well as Lent Hunt towards the end of November. So please be sure to register, stay tuned. And if you want to catch up on them, they're available on our FishCAST YouTube channel. And again, the kind of theme is all about exploring people's journeys through their career in fisheries and aquatic sciences. And we love what we've been seeing so far. And we want to basically open the door to more of these kinds of talks. we think that trainees and PIs and everyone in the audience could be and should be exposed to. In terms of micro credentials for FishCAST, we had some that were presented in 2023 for the first time. I want to give a huge shout out to Katrina Kishig, who is our part-time Indigenous coordinator of FishCAST, but more importantly, her day job, she's lead technician of the Coastal Waters Monitoring Program of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nations Environment Office. And Katrina worked for a really long time on creating and developing this Indigenous Canada Relations micro-credential. It was 5 sessions that was held over 10 weeks. And it was here where the trainees and the PIs who were, again, invited to all of them, where we reflected and discussed topics such as treaties, land acknowledgements, truth, what truth really is, what reconciliation really means, and determination and Indigenous-led conservation. It was an incredible micro-credential where we all learned so much in this circle. And we are so grateful for Katrina for establishing this and holding this space with us. We also had, for the first time, we were out in the field post-COVID, and we had an amazing micro-credential FishCAST TEK course. We had our 2 knowledge holders, Ron Sands from Akejwanong. He's an elder from Walpole Island First Nation. Our other knowledge holder was Alan Woodliff. He's a retired OMNRF ecologist who was born and raised just outside of Rondeau Park, where our course was held. And so we had over a couple of days the knowledge, and we didn't just have FishCAST trainees here. We welcomed and opened the doors to Parks Canada. So, for example, Karen Cedar was here. We had Indigenous Youth Circle, part of the National Urban Park. Michelle McCormack from Caldwell First Nations. It was amazing, and other people from CATS Lab. And the goal of it was really to connect through learning circles against the backdrop of nature. And it was such a phenomenal way to connect and interconnect with everyone. It was organized by Clint Jacobs, Candy Donaldson, and Ryan Graham. And again, we're hoping to hold another one next year. We were so excited about what we had just experienced that it was quite motivating for next round. So please stay tuned to that, and we'll make sure we keep the trainees informed. We had an amazing Jedi event too. We try to hold them every year. And so this February, FishCAST had a panel at our Society of Canadian Aquatic Sciences 2023 in Tiohtià:ke, Montreal, and the panel was called Reflections and Looking Forward. And this panel was conceived, developed, and organized by our trainee, Albana Berberi, and she organized everything. She put our panelists together. They ranged from different stages in one's practitioners, from environmental consultants to NGOs to academia to even environmental coordinators for Indigenous communities. And it was amazing how some of the themes that emerged from both our audience questions and the questions and the answers from our panelists, it was all about networking and collaboration as a theme, inclusivity and systemic barriers, indigeneity. We also had discussions about careers that we're having today with April, as well as mental and physical health and burnout. That was another theme that was really, really discussed. And so collectively, those on the panel with Albana and Kendra, we were approached by Canadian Science Publishing to write a blog about the panel. And so we did that as co-authors, and you can see it here on the website. It was talking about the role scientific societies like FishCAST can play in advancing the field in terms of all of the themes that we just mentioned. So a big shout out to Albana for creating this and conceiving this. So thank you. We want to welcome our new trainees from cohort 3. That's fall 2022, summer 2023. So welcome. There's some familiar faces on these, some new faces again, and so welcome to you. I want to welcome our cohort number 4. And again, I'm seeing all of you on our call today as well. So welcome everyone. But I don't want to forget about our trainees, both our alum and current trainees. It's amazing what you've made FishCAST into. And FishCAST is known now when we go out, oh, you're part of FishCAST, you're part of FishCAST. And that's thanks to you and I think your pride, hopefully, in the program that you're in. I see here our partners on our call. They're so hardworking in making sure that FishCast runs on all of the committees. We've got a programs committee, a curriculum committee, an internship committee, a recruitment mobility committee. We have student committee, and we couldn't do this without you. So thank you to everyone, as well as our amazing PIs. And I just wanted to give a huge chimagwech, a big thank you, a merci to the FishCast admin team for the support that you provide. And again, making FishCast what it is. Your input, we wouldn't be able to do it without you. And a big thank you always to Kendra, without which we couldn't get this done. And that's all I have for you today. So you're going to stop hearing me talk about how good FishCast is, and you're going to see it for yourself now as we transition over to our wonderful trainees who will be presenting on a photo they chose and something they wanted to talk about with their connection with FishCast. We'll switch it over to Kendra.
Okay. Let me Can we see it?
Yeah, you just have to give Max full screen. And if we could just get a check on the sound. There's a bit of an echo. Yeah. Stand by. Right, no, it's not. Okay, how's that sound? I think there's an echo here.
I'm going to see if I'm muted. I'm muted.
Okay, everyone online can hear us okay? Okay, there's no echo there? Okay, I'm just gonna see if we could get a sound check for the virtual room. How, are you getting any echoes? Can you hear us? No echo, perfect. Okay, so over to you and you go ahead and.
Yeah, so our first trainee is Alfred Aiken, and whenever you want to unmute Alfred, you can go ahead and about your first.
Yeah, you can hear me now? You can hear me? Oh, thank you. Okay, my name is Alfred Otieno Atieng. Is everything okay? Okay. Yeah, and I'm so glad to be a part of this FishCAST trainee team this year. Knowing it from Catherine. Catherine, thank you so much. I knew about FishCAST like 2 years ago, before even joining the University of Toronto. So getting my scholarship later this year was just an excitement to me. And traveling with my family, specifically, as April has talked about family, I really love my family. I have two sons who I have to walk with everywhere I go. So it was such a wonderful moment for me to travel with them, coming with them all the way to Canada and starting my PhD here, but also joining the team, FishCAST team. I'm so excited and happy to be part of this team. And through FishCAST, I also knew Nick Mandrak, who is one of my supervisors now, and George, who I will be developing a food web model for Lake Ontario. I've actually started. I'm on it already, working with the fish in Lake Ontario. Hopefully in the next 3 to 4 years, we have a trophic model for Lake Ontario. Thank you.
Morgan, did you want to take the mic? If you're here, and we'll.
Shayenna, probably saw her come in.
If you're speaking, we can't hear. So, should we go to the next one?
Okay, we'll go to Katrina Adeli.
Okay, Katrina, let's try your mic. Can you hear me? Perfect. The floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. So hi, everyone. My name is Katrina. I'm a master's student at the University of Manitoba, supervised by Dr. Margaret Docker and Dr. Caleb Hassler. My project compares two monitoring techniques, eDNA and gill netting, and how they can be used to track and estimate the relative abundance of 8 freshwater fish species in Lake Winnipeg, Manitoba. As some of you are already aware, last year I had some issues with contamination in my field negative controls. These controls are store-bought water bottles that have been UV'd prior to being opened and poured into a sampling bottle, then returned to its original container. The field negative controls indicate to us if there is any DNA that had been accidentally introduced into our samples throughout the collection process. Because the eDNA samples were collected on the same boat that was used for gill netting, I hypothesized that the positive detections in my field controls were either from physical contact with the gill netting boat or from aerosolization. So on the left side of my slide, you can see me gill netting and collecting eDNA water samples all from the same boat on the same day. But this year I decided to collect eDNA water samples from a separate boat from the gill netting. On the right side of the slide, you can see the boat that I used this year strictly for eDNA. I also took air samples to test for possible aerosolization contamination. So far, I've run qPCR for 3 of my 8 species of interest, and 6 air negative controls have amplified. However, these amplifications did not appear to have an impact on the water samples collected because none of my field negative controls in 2023 have amplified, which is great. And so the take-home message here is to be careful when doing paired sampling, especially with eDNA and how sensitive this work can be. Thank you.
Curtis? Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brianna Curtis. I'm a master's student in the Healthy Headwaters Lab, supervised by Dr. Catherine Fabria. And my project's looking at the effects of connectivity from dam infrastructure in the Grand River in Kitchener, Ontario, where I'll be considering the impacts of freshwater mussels and their host fish specifically on mobility across the watershed. So freshwater mussels, or Unionidae, are the only invertebrate that's protected under the Fisheries Act. So I just completed my first field season, which is this photo here, looking at benthic macroinvertebrate communities at 3 locations within the Grand River surrounding these dams. And I'm surveying a gradient of dam sizes to determine the impacts that dam size has on habitat stability. And I'm working with DFO and Grand River Conservation Authority to develop this project and establish a greater understanding of the impacts urbanization has on these species. So I'm looking forward to my next field season next summer, where I'll be looking at the mussel communities upstream and downstream of the dams to determine how riverine infrastructure impacts host fish, as well as the habitats of fish and mussel community relationships.
Brianna. And next we have Kristen first.
Hi, can you hear me? Oh, yes, okay. I'm Kristen Sear. I'm a PhD candidate in the Seminyak Lab. So this summer, I was really focused on building the foundation for the work that I'm going to be doing in the next couple of summers, which meant a lot of looking for sites and troubleshooting technology. Essentially, I'm using 2 different types of technology: acoustic telemetry with cameras to look at changes in the habitat use of and changes in behavior within thermal refugia of juvenile salmon when these invasive smallmouth bass are present or occupying these areas as well. But as many of you know, I think that these technological devices can be really tricky to deploy in aquatic environments, given these inherent challenges of the fact that, well, firstly, water just doesn't mix with technology in most cases, and my cameras are technically not waterproof. And acoustic telemetry, there's all sorts of issues. One of them being, specifically in my site, there's a very high flow, so that can kind of it can be a factor in whether or not I detect a species in the area. So even though I was doing all this groundwork, a lot of it was more so just proving to myself that I actually belong here and I can do this work. And I finally got to do some range testing with acoustic telemetry, which was successful. And I feel totally confident in doing that myself next year. And I had to build these waterproof housings for my cameras, which took maybe 6 or 7 deployments to finally get waterproof. And even though it may not look like in this picture, this is me being very happy finding out that my housing is very waterproof. Maybe a sense of bewilderment as well.
Then next we have Lauren. Lauren is on at Damphousse. She is on, right?
Lauren, you can take the floor.
Wasn't sure if
If
she
you are
was.
here.
Wasn't sure if she was able to log on yet.
Yeah.
I don't see Lauren.
Yeah, we don't see Lauren here, so we'll move to the next speaker.
Okay, so the next speaker is Acacia Frempong-Manso. Is Acacia still here?
No, I don't see her on.
Okay, she might have needed to leave as well. So we will go on to Markel Morford.
No, okay, great. Markel, you may take the floor.
Okay. So my research is on looking at comparing conventional fish sampling methods with environmental DNA in different conservation applications. One of my chapters is specifically focused at comparing communities detected by the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation's Coastal Waters Monitoring Program with what I found, what I'm going to find with the eDNA at these sites. And so these images are of some outreach that I did starting this past summer. I went to the powwows that the nation has. It's two nations included in the kind of umbrella nation. And I made this diorama. It took a lot of time, but this is hopefully accurate somewhat to their territory. I was going off a bathymetric map and trying to make the depth somewhat accurate and whatnot. So their territory is all the way from Goderich to Wasaga Beach, but this is mostly the peninsula in this model. So I was trying to explain environmental DNA to a more general audience, and the way that I ended up doing this, well, I made the model waterproof so that I could put water in there. Well, as waterproof as I could. It's very difficult, turns out. And I had like these rubber lures that of fishes that I bought, and then I covered them in different color, like primary colors of sugar sprinkles. And then I had like some water in, maybe the Georgian Bay side, and then I would put them in, and they would, the colors would dissolve and make a secondary color. And like, so for kids, I would ask, oh, what colors make this? If you see just the secondary color, what primary colors made this? And then I was saying how you could relate that back to what fishes I would find in the water. So just trying to break it down for that audience, and it drew kids in because they just wanted to play with the lures essentially. And then I took all the hooks off. Okay, I just think that's important to say. Then the parents were also listening, and I could also show them the equipment that I used and like explain it, kind of cater it to the different audiences as well. So that worked out pretty well. And in the photo on the right, that is Kat Kishig saying, oh, I really like this. No, I don't like it. I love it. When she came up to the booth at the powwow. So yeah, that was pretty fun. But I swear there were other people there. She was just like very enthusiastic. So yeah, that's my bit.
Thanks, Markel. That was wonderful. Next we have Madeline Morrison.
Hi,
Hi, I'm Madeline Morrison. I'm in the Mandrake Lab at UTSC. I'm in my first year of my master's, and I'm looking into habitat occupancy modeling for an at-risk freshwater species. And I'm using the pug-nosed shiner as my model species for this study. So it's a small shiner species that maxes at about 7 centimeters in length. And they've been quite tricky to find, but we have had some luck getting them over the summer, and we're hoping to fine-tune the sampling for next summer and maybe get some better results.
Next we have Shayenna. I'm not sure if Shayenna is.
I think she's a recording.
Yeah, we're gonna wait for recordings until later. We'll get through all the live ones first. Jennifer Powell. Jennifer on?
Yes.
I'm with Madeline.
Yes.
Yeah, so hello, I'm Jennifer Powell. I'm a PhD student in the Mandrake Lab. My work revolves around determining the habitat requirements of all the life stages of the endangered lake chubsucker. It's a very secretive fish, and little is known about its biology or its habitat needs, which hampers our ability to develop an effective recovery strategies for the species. In Canada, young of the year habitat for chubsuckers has only been described from 2 incidental collections, so a lot more information is needed. And this is why we were very excited to discover a lake chubsucker nursery this summer. So this discovery was very much accidental. We found them while we were radio tracking an adult who had disappeared way back into a wetland. So we found them in a small isolated pool that was only accessible once we had gotten out of the canoe and sawed through a bunch of logs to make our path through into the pool. And while we were trying to get a fix on the tagged fish that we were tracking, we looked down and found dozens of little chubsuckers swimming around the canoe, and some of which you can see in this photo here. Although not the little gray guy up at the top. That's a interloping black-line shiner. But as an added bonus, we also found a juvenile grass pickerel, which you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there, which is another species at risk, who is also hanging out in the same pool. So we revisited the site numerous times, and we found young chubsuckers there every time we visited. So we know that they use the site consistently. I've placed some temperature and dissolved oxygen loggers in that area, and hope I will be able to study the site more thoroughly next year. So this discovery will hopefully allow us to develop a much stronger understanding of the requirements for lake chubsucker nursery habitat, and which will hopefully allow us to better protect the species in the future.
Thanks, Jennifer. We're actually going to go back because I heard that Acacia is able to join us.
Able to speak and take the floor. See.
Yeah.
You're here? Okay. We'll give you the floor. We can, if you want to unmute. Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Is Acacia locked on her mute?
Yeah, Acacia, I see you're unmuted, but I also can't hear you, so I'm not sure if you're speaking. Okay, maybe we'll take the next slide. We'll come back to you. Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll try.
Yeah, sorry, Acacia.
We're trying, girl. All right, so we will go to the next speaker. And
okay, our next one would be Dominique Rumball.
Okay, Dominique, if you want to try unmuting, we'll make sure your sound is working.
Hello.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
You
Thanks.
have the floor.
Awesome. So hi everyone, my name is Dominique, and the photograph I chose to represent my progress over the last year is the cover page of a children's book I am in the process of publishing. The book is about a rare spotted gar who searches far and wide in an underwater world to find a forever home and meets a lot of different aquatic species at risk along the way. The spotted gar's search for a forever home is not going well until a few biologists, including myself, come along with a creative way to find the perfect forever home. I was very lucky to get some dedicated time to work on this project during my internship with St. Clair Region Conservation Authority this year, where I worked on creating lesson plans that will accompany the book so that it can be used in elementary schools as an educational tool. I was also very lucky to get a bunch of hands-on experience sampling fishes, mussels, and turtles in the field and creating an interpretive sign where I'm actually credited as the artist, which is pretty exciting. I know this isn't the end of my journey with the Conservation Authority, and I look forward to continuing to work with them. These last couple of months have also been very exciting for me because I successfully defended my master's at the end of August and started my PhD, continuing on with Nick Mandrak at U of T. So I'm extremely excited to be joining the FishCAST program now as a PhD student, and I really look forward to learning alongside all of you. Thank you, and Chimigwech.
Thanks, Dominique.
Great. Next up, Thiranya. Are you here? And did you want to take the floor? I'll just try. Yes, we can hear you. Perfect. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. So for this field season, I successfully completed with so many, I would say, barriers, but still completed nonetheless. And I want to share this moment to thank and reflect in what was my field season, especially the field season was made possible is because of the people who were with me. And I have nothing but gratefulness towards them, and because it was a learning and a teaching opportunity for me. I would like to introduce every person I have showed in this slide. Of course, the OG Ryan Graham. He was there most of all my field work, and the transition from him teaching me and me teaching others was very smooth, and I never realized that I'm taking in charge. And it was really an amazing experience with Ryan Graham teaching me everything. And then me slowly transitioning to teaching other people who are on the field season with me is Sarika, one of our undergrad student from HHL, and Jeff Lalin is one of indigenous, how would I say, stewards from the National Urban Park, and he also works with us and from Walpole Island First Nation. And let me tell you about Jeff, the amazing person on this planet Earth. If you guys had a chance to work with him, grab him. So he is the most enthusiastic person I've ever met in a very different way, and it made my journey even more worthwhile. It's for the science, but I think it made the work because of the people who were helping me out. And I would want to point out the auger, the soil, what is it, a sediment core that I was trying to take out with Jeff. I am trying to flex for the photo. I'm not even joking. I was trying to flex for the photo. I was basically deadlifting the whole earth, and I was not that strong. I'm very small. I'm 5'3". I can't deadlift that much of a core. And there I go. When I deadlift, I made sure I flex. And then taking it out was also huge. How do I say, huge trouble? But I had Jeff, and I had Sarika, and I had Ryan. All of them are more than 6 foot tall, who are very stronger than me. So I would love to thank them all. I would like to thank the people. I would love to thank the lab who facilitated this thing. And yeah, this is one aspect that close to my heart. So I decided to present that. Chimigwech, everyone.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Next we have Albana Berry.
All right, Albana, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. I'm in my 4th year of my PhD, and I'm studying freshwater turtles and specifically how they interact with recreational fisheries. And this past summer was my last summer collecting data for my PhD, which is very exciting. A little bit different in that I conducted interviews with folks who have been on the lake for at least 10 years. And some of these folks have been on Openakan Lake for since the 60s, so a really long time. And I got to ask some questions about what they've noticed with the turtle population, especially because these turtles live 60, 70 plus years, and just the changes that they've seen over time, and also the changes that they've seen in the lake too. So it was really great just to talk with folks on the lake and build those connections and getting to hear their experiences and getting to record that so we can use it for protecting turtles now and in the future. I also got a chance to TA for a field course in the summer, which was really great. I focused on turtles as well too, and getting to teach students how to collect data in the lake and also how to analyze data and how to sort of be curious about what's happening to the turtle population and how they would approach research was a really fun opportunity as well too.
Next we have Baptiste Brunet. Is Baptiste here?
I don't think Baptiste is here. Let me double check.
Yeah, I don't see them. Maybe we move to the next.
Yeah. And next we have Alyssa. Goodman.
Yes, Alyssa's
I
here.
think Alyssa's here. You take the floor.
Hi, I'm Alyssa Goodenough. I am a second year master's student in the Cook Lab, co-supervised by Dr. Andy Danielchuk of UMass. And we took a more unique approach to my thesis, where it was a little bit more personal in the sense that both of my chapters we created based sort of around my life. So the first one is on women in recreational fishing, and the second one is based on angler gear choices, and that one revolved around my work as a fishing guide up in northern Manitoba. So this was the biggest fish that we were able to collect data on this year, and it measured in at 48.25 inches with a 24.5-inch girth. So it was a pretty massive fish and probably the most exciting accomplishment of my study so far.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Alyssa. Next we have Andrew Howard.
Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Yeah, hi everyone. I chose this photo here because I think it captures or at least sort of symbolizes what I'm doing with my thesis, which is operating at some what I'd consider key boundaries. One of those is the boundary between sociology or the human dimensions of fisheries and biology and ecology. So I spend some time behind a screen, I spend some time in a wetsuit, and sometimes I'm doing both at the same time, like I am in this photo. To describe it without getting into too much detail, my thesis involves contributing to what I see as a sort of a portfolio, or what I like to call now composite approach to freshwater fisheries management and conservation. That's all motivated by the recognition that freshwater fisheries face diverse interacting stressors which have major cumulative effects, and our opposing efforts to understand, manage, and conserve fisheries have to be similarly synergistic. So I work at the boundaries of not just sociology and biology, but also science and policy. And I'm really interested in how all of these efforts all these cumulative efforts to conserve and manage fisheries can be greater. A recent example of this was a paper that I published earlier this year about freshwater fisheries management in Canada, and it touched on some of these issues. It got the editor's choice selection for the September 2023 issue of FishCAST. So it's validating that something like that happened. And if you want to hear about it, you can check FishCAST's Twitter. I think that's probably the best place. That's where they seem to communicate a lot of this stuff at first. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Andrew. Up next we have Connor.
Hi, everyone. The last year for me has mainly been, sorry, I should say I'm a PhD student in Steve Cook's lab at Carleton. The last year for me has mostly been project planning and dealing with bureaucracy and herding cats and that sort of stuff. So I don't actually have a any fieldwork photos to show. But what I do have is a photo of our lab's attempt to clean up our. Sorry, I'm having some camera issues here. I'm just going to keep my camera off. So our lab storage area is what you see here, and we had to clean it out. This is something we've been meaning to do for a long time. Steve and I and a couple others have been looking at it for a while and going, just, you know, purge needs to happen. And we tried over the last few years a couple of times, but it just never really panned out because of pandemic restrictions and things. But we finally got together and made it happen. So this is a huge win for teamwork and collective responsibility. It took over, I think there were at least a dozen of us there, and it took the better part of a day, but we had a good plan. We had good communication. People in the storage were moving things in and out. Some people driving vehicles, transporting stuff on or off campus, and it was just yeah, it was a huge team effort, but the sense of working together as a well-oiled machine, and the relief and the accomplishment at the end of this was extraordinary. So yeah, if anyone else is also thinking about, your lab storage space or anything, and thinking, maybe this could be tidied up a little bit, take the initiative, get together, get it done, be a team, grab pizza or something afterwards. It's totally worth it.
Connor, up next we have Kevin Adeli.
All right, Kevin. I'm gonna try your mic. We can't hear you if you're here. Let's see. No, I don't see Kevin here. Do we want to move to the next speaker?
Is Zena here?
I think so.
Zena, are you there? Yep. Okay, perfect. You have the floor.
Hi, hi everyone. I'm Zinat. I'm Dr. Zelensky's lab at University of Windsor, and my research are more focused on the understanding the taste system of sea lamprey. Well, sea lamprey holds a great scientific interest, as it's the Asian vertebrate species that diverged from the evolutionary pathway of other vertebrate around 500 million years ago, and also its parasitic nature. We are setting it apart from some of the other vertebrate species that don't go through the parasitic stage. And I want to understand how the sea lamprey select and detect the food, like target food, which still remain a mystery, and I want to unravel it. And I want to understand so to understand it, where exactly they are located, and are they located throughout the pharynx region. And I try to find it using the amino labeling, and where exactly they are located, the taste buds. And it was really looking at the lateral surface of it, and you can see in the image that the star indicate the taste bud where they exactly located in the pharynx region. And I want to know that whether the taste bud has same receptor as mammals, because according you don't see the picture, the better tasting of the mammals. Well, according to it, the taste receptors are conserved like in vertebrate, like zebrafish and other human and mouse. However, sea lamprey, because it's separate from the 500 million years ago, is it conserved? It possesses the same receptor as mammals and fish. And I try to so for that I try to find it through the mRNA PCR mRNA using the having genetic using the genetic technique, just to find if some of the conserved taste receptors are conserved or not. And I found some of them are conserved, and I found some are conserved and some are non-conserved element in the sea lamprey taste perception. However, as you see the mRNA band of some of the specific proteins in the figure. However, I'm not gonna reveal what proteins I have found, and it's still a mystery for you all. So I will tell you later on. That's all I have done.
Thank you.
Zena. Next we have Jesus Betancourt.
Jesus, you may take the floor.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
So my name is Jesus Luis Betancourt. I'm doing my master's degree at Brian Dixon. And my research is about the study of antimicrobial peptide in aquaculture. As you know, we need to avoid the overuse and misuse of antibiotics. So my research is about the antimicrobial properties and immunostimulant properties of some antimicrobial peptide. In this picture, you can see all my connection. I'm so happy to have people from Mexico, from Cuba, and from Canada, of course. So yeah, so science is not only about getting knowledge, it's also about making connections. So I'm very happy about it. So thank you.
Next we have Declan Burton.
Declan.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Loosely, I'm guessing. Perfect. Me and my partner are currently fighting for our internet, so it might be dropping out a little bit low. This field season marks the end of my my data collection as well, which is fantastic. It was very hectic. So we're working on taking non-lethal samples to run them through qPCR to identify any stresses within thermal biology. In this situation, we were looking at brook trout. The photo's not blown up very well, but on the right-hand side, that's an underwater pen, and those dark shapes are actually brook trout that we were holding for 48 hours and then sampling post 48 hours. I do also have the FishCAST top on. Yeah, as you can see here, we had to get in and out of the site after a couple of washouts via a side-by-side. So it's been pretty intense, to say the least, but we did get there in the end. And then other things about this year, I'm now officially a PhD candidate, better late than never. But yeah, so that's kind of been the main focus of my year, is kind of a lot of studying mainly. So yeah, so now it's just a case of get down in the lab and make sure that we can process all these samples and hopefully start producing some graphs and figures and things to present. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
And next we have Blandine Dang.
Blandine, are you here? Let's see.
Hi, everyone.
Perfect.
Hi.
You have the floor.
Thank you guys. In the past year, I have processed my samples collected from Yellow Island aquaculture, and using that samples, I have tested the efficacy of a gene chip that has been developed in Windsor. I have also finished the qPCR experiment to prove the result in the gene chip, and it was very nice that there has been a positive correlation in many of the immune-related genes. So huge thank you to my supervisor, Brian Dixon, and also Dr. Dan Heath, who is also on my committee. They helped me so much during my project. And I'm really glad what I learned in this process. Thank you.
Thanks, Blandine.
Thank you.
Next we have Emily, and I'm going to apologize. Emily brought it to my attention I misspelled her last name. It's just MC, not MAC. So I apologize for misspelling
That's
it. I've been
okay.
misspelling it
My
the whole
Scottish
time.
ancestors are rolling in their grave, but that's okay. Hi, everybody has such really nice pictures of their fieldwork. I chose the picture with the funniest story. So I guess it just kind of goes with my razzle dazzle of me as a person. So this is from my internship also at Yellow Island Aquaculture. From what I've heard is that some other people have been to Yellow Island before. I know Tina was one of Anne's favorites. She was mentioned a lot. But if you've ever been there, it's just an aquaculture facility in the middle of nowhere. It's not a high-tech lab by any means. And we were focusing on the effect of heat shock and heat stress on salmon. But the best way that we found that we could do that was with giant Salu Spa inflatable hot tubs bought from Costco. So, that kind of, Brian, my supervisor, told me before we went out, you do the experiment you can, not the experiment you want. So this is our salmon that we named Margarita. She's a very special salmon because hot tubs are really good at heating up, but when it came for the ramp down period, we had a lot of struggles with trying to make the water a lot cooler. So we didn't have a top on the hot tub. We were constantly out fluxing the hot water, influxing cold water. And this little salmon decided that it was going to be acrobatic time and jump out of the hot tub several times. And so she had a particularly like darker coat. She was a little bit more black on her scales than other fish were. So we were easily able to pick her out. That's NOAA with me, by the way. We were the only two ones there. And this is after I think like hour 30 of straight work because we were doing the heat shock and then the infection and then the taking samples. So at this point we're completely delusional, and then we noticed that one of our samples that we were taking was our dear Margarita. So this was our goodbye picture to the one and only, and just kind of an ode to how field work went just in general. So that was my field work this summer.
That's amazing. Thanks, Emily. Next we have NOAA.
Oh,
Rogozinski.
Hi. Yeah, I didn't know what people were going to put, so I put something that I thought was cool. This is a decapitated monkfish. So I'm a first-year master's student in Brian Dixon's lab, and I'm trying to develop an in vitro model for the infection and propagation of an intracellular parasite that affects particularly Chinook salmon, but it usually only sort of increases in its prevalence at one time in the year, and I wasn't able to get there in time to get some samples. So my backup plan was to use a relative of the parasite, which is in monkfish, which is like a deep sea anglerfish. And so you can see in the picture here, there's like a sac that looks like it's kind of filled with looks kind of like an acorn. So that's one of the nerve cells that's been turned into basically a factory filled with spores. So eventually that will burst and then be disseminated throughout the fish, or if another fish eats it, then because cannibalism is very common in this kind of fish, then it will be passed to the next host. And so, yeah, I thought it was cool when I got to get those fish earlier this year. So I took a picture and here it is.
Thanks, Noah. Next we have Mesa. Is Mesa still here?
Hi, everyone. Can you see me?
Yes, very soon we will. We can hear you just fine. You have the floor.
So my name is Miza. I'm a first-year master's student in Dr. Trevor Pitcher's lab at the University of Windsor. So here I've included a picture of a salmon brain that I dissected. And I will kind of use this as an opportunity to provide a glimpse into my ongoing research, which focuses on the effects of structural enrichment on the brain morphology of Atlantic salmon. So as many of you know, Atlantic salmon are considered an endangered species in Canada, so efforts to reintroduce them are especially important right now. However, hatcheries often produce fish that exhibit low fitness and survival rates when reintroduced. So one thing that hatcheries are looking into to mitigate this low fitness problem in captive fish is structural enrichment, which is the addition of physical complexity into the captive animal's environment. There's still many gaps in the research about structural enrichment in fish, and most fish biology related journals don't use any structural enrichment. So this underscores the need for further research to explore the full potential of structural enrichment. Now, you might be wondering why the brain morphology is of particular interest. It's because the relative brain volume and overall structure of the brain can serve as measurable indicators of how a species has adapted to its environment or selection pressures. Larger brains can actually be beneficial because they may increase the connections between neurons, which increase information processing, memory storage, and even cognitive abilities. So in a world where conservation and sustainable fisheries management are becoming increasingly vital, our work has the potential to contribute to the development of practices that promote the fitness and survivability of Atlantic salmon. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next we have Christian Darian. Christian.
I don't think we saw him on the chat.
Oh. Oh, okay.
I'll make sure. Oh, he's here. Christian's here. Oh, sorry, Christian.
Oh, he's very quiet.
You're very quiet. Are you able to adjust your volume on your mic? It's, yeah, no, we can't hear you at all now.
This.
Perfect.
Yeah, sorry about that. Man, I got an old laptop. Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm fourth year, I guess. Wow, I'm getting old. Fourth year PhD student in the Swanson lab and the NEF lab. And my outreach item, or what I wanted to talk about the AGM really quick, was essentially trying to get out the science that we've been doing to anglers, you know, across Canada and the US. So one thing I started doing was I got into magazine article writing. Actually, former FishCAST student Peter Baker really motivated to do that. And so what I did was I teamed up with Canadian Fishing Hall of Famer Gord Pizer, and we wrote a series of articles on Cisco biology and how to use that, how to exploit that to catch more fish. So we wrote a print-only article in the latest issue of Outdoor Canada. That magazine reaches 1.9 million annual readers in Canada. And then we also wrote a series of blog posts on outdoorcanada.com. So yeah, we had a lot of outreach. Outdoor Canada alone on Facebook is 50,000, you know, likes, plus, you know, all the other groups and stuff. So there's been a lot of, you know, a lot of anglers thanking me, a lot of people saying, like, you know, you guys do all this research, and, you know, how is it applicable to us, and how can we use it? And, you know, you sense a lot of frustration. So, you know, it seems that, you know, people are really happy with that. And that was a nice step. And it was kind of nice just to get out of the myopic, you know, lens of academia and fisheries biology, and kind of move back and like, hey, how can this help me catch more and bigger fish? And I think that's what we're doing. So with that, I'll thank you all. And yeah, thanks for everything.
Thanks, Christian. You should put your hand on the chat so we can follow you.
Next up is Ghislaine.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ghislaine. I'm a PhD student from UQAR in Quebec. I'm supervised by Dr. Céline Audet and Dr. Christina Semenio Cortina. And today I'd like to share with you actually my recent FishCAST internship. It was in a collaboration with a private outfitter, I think in English, La Pourvoirie Boulot Blanc in Forestville in Quebec. So the purpose of this internship actually was to help the owner to evaluate the health condition of some brook char population in some lakes, because he had shared with us some concerns regarding the decline in health, like of some brook char population in some lakes. And consequently, we sampled brook char, liver, and gills from 7 different lakes in 3 days. So we sampled over 140 brook char. Yeah, so, and we will use the genefish chips developed at the Windsor University to evaluate their health condition at the transcriptional level, and looking for gene like involved, for example, metabolism, growth, immunity, stress response, etc. And the result first, they will help the owner to evaluate the health condition of their fish stock, that's for sure, but especially it will foster a kind of a mutually beneficial relationship between the academia and the industrial, which was actually the purpose of my both FishCAST internship, like of last year and this year. And for me, it was really a super nice experience, as it was my first real ever field work. I was so happy to have a field work and not just doing lab and coding behind my screen. So it was really super nice. and I tried fishing for the first time, so it was not really very successful for me, as you can see here in the pictures. And I'm very thankful to Celine, my supervisor, to Gordon Walsh, and to Eileen O'Day, because they for teaching me fishing and for helping me with the sampling, because without them I couldn't do it because of my zero skills in fishing. So thank you for them. That's all for me. Thank you.
Bravo. Thank you. Next we have Nina.
Yes, Caroline, can you hear me? Yes. Good. So hello everyone, my name is Nina Bélanger and I'm a PhD student supervised by Céline Audet at the Université du Québec à Rimouski. So personally, I've just started my PhD, which will be about the street bass growth under different summer conditions and different diets. But even though it's just the beginning, I have already done some laboratory during this summer, and I performed over 150 RNA extractions on street bass livers and muscles from the previous experiments. And those street bass were raised under different diet regimes. And I'm really proud to have been able to do so during one summer. So that's why I chose this picture. And also because this is two UV hoods that are used to sterilize the equipment and the surface for the final steps of the RNA extractions. And I really like this color, and I already found that it's quite soothing at the end of a lab day to see that. So that's why. Thank you.
Thanks, Nina. And next we have Olivia Galloway.
Olivia.
Hi, my name is Olivia Galloway. If you can hear me, good?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a new master's student in Dr. Trevor Pitcher's lab at the University of Windsor. I chose to share a photo of me with my poster at my first academic conference this summer. In August, I got to go, thanks to FishCAST and my supervisor, to Grand Rapids for the 153rd annual meeting for the American Fisheries Society. And I got to present a poster. And I was really nervous because I didn't have any results to share. It was a preliminary study, but it actually went really well. I got to meet some big names in the sturgeon field and hear some very good talks and network with a lot of really cool people. And a lot of people had really good things to say about it and gave me suggestions and feedback. And overall, the conference was amazing. And it kind of reinforced for me that I'm where I need to be in this field, and just made me more excited about the work that I get to do. So thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. That's great.
I'm surprised your picture was at the sturgeon.
I thought about it.
I believe Nick has had to go, so he's not here. Shall we move to the next speaker?
That's all.
That was
for
it.
the
I think
live
Shayenna's here. She's in the field. Oh, I thought she got her. Yeah, Shayenna, I'm just gonna see, did you want to say anything?
Is Acacia?
Acacia, I wonder if we were able to get a connection now. But if there are anyone else that didn't have a chance to speak, speak now, and we will try and get your slide.
I do have recordings I can play. I just wanted to give Acacia.
Yeah, I don't see her online. She was having connection issues the whole time.
Yeah. Okay, so
we could do Shayenna. She's here.
I think she's in the
record.
Yeah.
Oh, but her.
Oh, the recording. Yeah.
Yeah. Acacia sent me a recording as well, so I do have a few recordings.
Stand by. We will quickly pull. Thank you to everyone who presented. Thank you to those who sent a recording in anticipation of a potential technical snafu, and Kendra will just get those the last set of slides and videos together.
Okay.
So we don't want to give everyone echo trauma. But thank you for your patience. I think what we will do is we'll send the videos. We want to make sure everyone has a chance to share their story, which I know we've all enjoyed.
Yeah. We should have the pictures now.
Yeah.
The winners.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the more fun part. So we're really sorry for those who couldn't present.
We promise we'll send them around.
Yes. But now we've asked our FishCAST trainees to send in different photos for different categories. And what were the categories, Kendra?
beauty, fun, connections, and mishaps.
So beauty, fun, connection, and mishaps. We asked our trainees to vote for their top 3 for each one, and we now have the winners. And Kendra's going to be presenting who the winners are. And so I got a chance to see all the photos. I love them all, but I wasn't allowed to vote on anything. So do with that what you will.
To the Kenyans. Good luck to everyone. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Over to Kendra.
Oh, nice. We'll full screen it.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, who is our first place, or what's our first category?
Okay, so I just want to say thank you to the trainees too for sending in all these fantastic photos. This kind of collage of some of them that came in. So our first category is beauty. Third place we have Emily with the sunset over Quadra Island.
Nice.
Second place we have NOAA with Campbell's Best Kept Secret. First place goes to Alyssa with the night sky on the lake. This is a gorgeous pic.
Congratulations.
Many people voted.
Yay.
Photos, amazing.
Our next category is fun. Third place goes to Kristen. We may all be working in this picture, but can we really label exploring the river for sites working? Second place goes to Elaine. Reality bite-sized snack. Social media, call me Captain Ahab.
That's awesome. Good photoshopping skills. I love that.
And the first place goes to Brooklynne for her picture of polar bear dip.
Nice. Doesn't look cold. I don't know. Don't know.
Our next category is connections. Third place goes to Tirana with connections that matter. You can see all the puppy love in the picture. Second place goes to Dominique with grain classification fun with friends.
Oh, nice.
First place goes to Markel. Next category is mishaps.
Oh, wait, congratulations, though. For the connections.
Yes. Third place goes to Kevin. I'm sure I need to use that.
So what bird is that? Is that a? Oh, it's so cool.
I'm not good at bird identification.
Yeah. So congratulations, Kevin.
And there's second place to Olivia for sturgeon slab.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
And first place goes to Jennifer. Weren't there more fish in the bin? Bullhead taking advantage of the sunfish buffet while spike netting.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
Yeah, and my honorable mention this year goes to Katrina Audette for all the fantastic pictures she sent in.
And there's a prize associated with the honorable mention too.
Yeah.
But we will not be mentioning it this time. Congratulations, everyone. So thank you for those of you who stayed on. We went past our 2 o'clock deadline. Sorry about the audio issues. We'll try to work it out for next time. But again, I wanted to give a huge thank you, un gros merci, Chimagwech to everyone for making FishCast what it is. Thank you to the trainees as always, for sharing your stories and your mishaps and your connections and your beauty and your fun. Really appreciated that. Thank you. I saw a lot of our FishCast PIs that have made it through to the end. So thank you to you as well. And to those of the wider FishCast community, it's always great to see you. We'll hopefully see you again next week with our next seminar series. And stay tuned. And if you have any comments or feedback for our FishCast program, you can always reach out to Kendra and she'll filter it for me. So thanks again, everyone. And yes, for spending. It's been amazing, and we really appreciate it. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great work, everybody.
Until next time, à la prochaine. Bon appétit.
Hey guys, sorry I couldn't make the meeting. I'm going to be giving a quick lightning talk about my project that I'm currently working on with Chinook salmon. So Chinook salmon in Lake Ontario have a diet that consists almost entirely of alewife and rainbow smelt, which are 2 non-native species to the Great Lakes that are in high abundance in Lake Ontario. Problem here is that alewife and rainbow smelt both have high levels of an enzyme called thiaminase, which breaks down thiamine, and they have levels that are much higher than native prey fish do. So when Chinook salmon and other salmon eat a lot of these high thiaminase prey fish, they can become thiamine deficient, which is a problem because thiamine, or vitamin B1, is a very important vitamin, and it can cause a plethora of issues when fish or any animal are deficient in this vitamin. One of those issues being cardiovascular effects, So my current research is looking at how thiamine deficiency and its cardiovascular implications may affect Chinook salmon's ability to migrate upriver and spawn.
Hi, my name is Baptiste Brunet. I'm a master student in oceanography in Quebec. So I went back to France, so it was complicated for me to attend this meeting, but that is my photo. So this photo was taken in Gaspésie in Quebec during the month of June. So as you can see, I'm retrieving a fish from volunteers anglers. So this photo showed the importance of communication between the anglers and I in the success of my study, because without anglers I wouldn't have been able to do my study. So I would like to thank all of the anglers who took part in this 2 years of study. So this field trip was the last field trip of my master's degrees, and I'm going to submit very soon. So that's it for my photo. So obviously I'm at left, and thank you for your listening, and have a nice meeting. Bye.
Everyone, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it today. My name is Lauren Damphousse, and the photo I provided is of me from this past summer and was taken by Shayenna Nolan. I've mentioned it before, but my research is focused on evaluating freshwater mussel translocations as a conservation technique. This August, with the help of DFO and several other community partners, we were actually able to perform an experimental mussel translocation in the Sydenham River. This involved the excavation of an area over 240 meters squared and the relocation of over 600 mussels, 350 of which we pit tagged. This was my first time organizing a task of this size, a team of this size, and pit tagging animals, which was more than a little stressful for me, as you can probably tell by the chaos of this photo. When you have so many individuals involved, you're terrified of not being prepared enough and disappointing people as a result. The first day was definitely rocky, but looking back, the experience as a whole was so positive, and I was able to learn so much. Just witnessing how many people came out to help and learn about mussels through the week made me realize how much support I have and how important it is to build community relationships. Secondly, it was a great opportunity to remind myself that I'm a student. Primarily, I'm here to learn, and more often than not, that comes with some discomfort. I hope everyone else was able to have equally positive experiences with your work in the last year, and great people to back you up as well. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm really sorry that I could not join you all today, but I just wanted to say that I'm glad that I have the opportunity to share my research and a little bit about myself today. My name is Acacia Frempong-Manso, and I am a PhD student in the Fish Ecology and Conservation Physiology Lab at Carleton University. I'm supervised by Dr. Stephen Cook, as well as Dr. Keith Vanderright. And my PhD is focusing on shoreline erosion control designs and how this can be used as a tool for biodiversity and conservation. So my thesis in particular will be looking at studying ways in which shoreline erosion controls can be enhanced to yield better conservation gains. And although it's ideal to maintain natural shorelines, the reality is that in areas such as here in the Ottawa, the Rudo system, it's often necessary to use retaining walls of various sorts to protect against catastrophic erosion. In Florida, there's been recent research involving the modification of engineered concrete shorelines to include elements of natural habitat, such as seen here, done by my co-supervisor, Dr. Keith Vanderright. The concept is that these walls will incorporate more natural features, and in doing so, provide complex habitat that can be used for aquatic life. My project will be proposing to develop and test the same concept, but here in a freshwater system in the Rudo Canal. It would be the first time that this has been done in freshwater systems, but rather than using the designs that you see here, we will take woody debris inspiration. Thank you.
Varying levels of conservation concern that I'm focused on mapping their distribution using environmental DNA. So we have our native lampreys. There are good lampreys out there for those who don't know already. chestnut lamprey, silver lamprey, and northern brook lamprey, in addition to horny-head chub, golden red horse, and big-mouth buffalo. The element of my FishCAST journey that I'd like to highlight today is my internship, which I have been doing with Fisheries and Oceans here in Manitoba. This internship has provided me with the opportunity to learn many different skills that I wouldn't have learned in my master's project alone, one of which is electrofishing. So this internship provided me with opportunities to learn how to do backpack electrofishing and boat electrofishing. And I incorporated it into my master's project by doing paired sampling. So we would first collect environmental DNA samples at the site of interest and then subsequently electrofish at that site to compare both methods in their ability to detect my target species. Another fantastic element of this was I was able to see my target species in person, which may sound weird to some researchers, but because I do a non-invasive method of sampling most of the time, I don't often get to see the species that I'm looking for. So being able to actually see them and hold them was so great. So I'd like to take a moment to thank all of the people who have made this program and project possible. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out at the email below.
My name is Shayenna. I'm a PhD student supervised by Dr. Catherine Fabria and Dr. Daniel Heath. This is my year in review. I tried to film this a first time and it's way too long because there's so many stories and so many good moments from this year, so I'm just going to try to go through this a little more quickly. So I started this year by going to a language conference in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan called Anishinaabe Moanteg. We learned all about our language, the words, and all of the word pieces have so many stories within them and hold so much knowledge. So that was a great way to start the year. Spending time in Garden River with one of my mentors, Sue Chiblo. This is Batchewana Bay. This is where my family is from. This is me in the bay. My cousin made me this skirt this year, so it felt fitting to have a picture. I also took a course at UBC called Co-Creating Aquatic Science. So we got to go to Haida Gwaii for a week, and it was Indigenous students from all over North America, which was cool. Here's an all-nations feast that we did. So everyone brought kind of a traditional food. Me and this girl, Taylor from Wanapate, made bannock. And then a volcano erupted in Russia, keeping us there for a couple extra days. That's real, you can Google it. So we got to explore more of Haida Gwaii. And then we also got to sample our stream in Haida Gwaii. So I got to lead that, and we got to use a lot of the research protocols that we talked about all year in class, like smudging and starting with ceremony and language. Here I am back in Batchewana, taking everything I've learned back to the Chippewa River. This was another village site for Batchewana, and fun fact, this was also where the smallpox attacks happened on our nation. This is a really special river to me. It's inspired my entire science journey. And there's me with some cranes. I'm Crane Clan, so it's really special whenever they come out to greet and sing. And then I ended my year by participating in a fall fasting camp. So here are some images from that. Our ceremony grounds are on the northeastern shore of Lake Superior. And that was my year. It was a lot of time spent in community, and I just want to say how grateful I am to have supervisors that support my growth and development as an Indigenous scientist. Miigwech.
Thanks, everybody.
You did it!
Yay!
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so what we can do,
Try it now to work.
yeah, and next time we can bring videos into PowerPoint.
Okay.
You could bring videos and play videos